Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So I was about to make mozzarella and ran into a little bit of a problem. We ran out of citric acid, and for anyone who has seen our mozzarella cheese recipe, you know that the one that we do calls for citric acid and rennet. So to make it we needed both. Well, I was about to just make some using vinegar, which is another option, but usually when you make mozzarella cheese with vinegar, it doesn't come out very soft and stretchy. It's more hard, closer to like a farmer's cheese. So I didn't really want to make it this way, but I was going to, until I read a couple of people were saying online that you do not need citric acid to make cheese when using raw milk. I found that interesting. I'm not quite sure why. I didn't dig in far enough to know. So if someone knows why, feel free to leave it in the comments below. So today, I didn't really get into any kind of research or anything. So today I'm going to use my original mozzarella cheese recipe, but I'm going to cut out the citric acid. So in our mozzarella cheese recipe, we add citric acid at the very beginning when the milk is so cold. So we pour the milk into our pot, we add our citric acid diluted in water. And normally we get our citric acid from Azure Standard, which is why I can't just go get more, because Azure Standard only comes once a month. So I'm going to make only a gallon because I don't know if this is going to work and I don't want to waste more than a gallon of milk trying this. So I'm going to try our original cheese recipe only using rennet. This is unpasteurized whole milk. This is raw milk. So it should, according to what these people have said online, work. So we're going to give it a shot. I'm just going to start by dumping my milk into my pot and heating it to 90 degrees. Alright, y'all, our milk is just about at 90 degrees. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to get my rennet ready. Now we use animal rennet from New England Cheesemaking Company. This is liquid rennet. I will link this, and they also sell a vegetarian rennet as well. So this is what we like to use, and I'm going to mix, I have a scale here, and I'm going to mix 3 grams of liquid rennet diluted into the milk as soon as it hits 90 degrees. Personally, we've always used liquid rennet. I'm not sure if you're using tablet rennet, but I'm sure there's a way to convert this if you need to. So this next step is really going to be the telltale sign on whether this works or not, because the curdling is what I'm most worried about working. Is it going to curdle? Is it not going to curdle? Now I have done cheeses with just rennet that don't call for citric acid. Like my cottage cheese recipe calls for rennet but not citric acid. So I don't use citric acid in that recipe. But mozzarella is a recipe that calls for citric acid, so does it make that much of a difference? Guess we're going to find out. Let's mix this up. Alright, our milk is at 90 degrees, so I'm just going to stir and pour this rennet in that's diluted. And I mix for a certain amount of time. I mix for 25 seconds. Then I'm going to put a lid on it for, I believe it's 10 minutes. I'll have to double check. And then that's going to be where we know if this worked or not. And while that's sitting, I'd like to get y'all's thought on a new video idea. I would like to try a ChatGPT cheese recipe. I feel that could be interesting and fun, just out of curiosity, because I know that some people have tried ChatGPT for different things, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I'm just curious what kind of cheese recipe it would come up with. So I am planning on running a poll next week to find out what kind of cheese I should ask it to give me a recipe for. So make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for that poll. But I would love to know if you would be interested in watching that video or not. Let me know in the comments. Alright, y'all, the moment of truth. Did this work? Ooh, it looks like it may have. We have curds, but that doesn't mean that it worked completely. It just means it curdled, which, if it curdled, it can be made into cheese. But I want to know, did it still turn into a mozzarella type cheese, or did it turn into something else? Because this is for mozzarella. So just because something curdles doesn't mean it turned into the right cheese. Wow, that actually created some really nice curds. These are better curds than I've had on cheese in a while. I mean, mozzarella cheese anyway. This sort of does look like my cottage cheese curds, almost the same, which I'd be okay with that because the cottage cheese curds are really soft and nice. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to slowly heat this to 103, and I'm going to just gently stir these around, trying not to break them too much. Oh wow, these curds go all the way to the bottom. Wow, okay, well, we'll have to see. And then over here, right there, I have set up here a bowl with a colander inside and then butter muslin. I will link everything that I'm using today, but you don't need butter muslin. You could use it like a tea towel or any kind of thin cloth for that next step. So I'm going to heat this to 103 and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, now that our curds have been heated up again, I'm going to strain them through this colander bowl muslin setup that I have. And so the real key here is going to be to tell whether it's actually stretchy and stringy like real mozzarella, because right now this looks like what my cottage cheese normally looks like, and cottage cheese is not stringy and stretchy. So if it doesn't come out stringy and stretchy, then it's not really mozzarella. It's more like a farmer's cheese or a cottage cheese or a ricotta, and that's not really what I'm going for. So just because it's curdled doesn't mean it turned into what I wanted it to turn into, if that makes sense. Like, there's a difference between the cheeses. So I'm going to go ahead and strain this, and then I'm going to take a little pot of this whey that's left over in the pot here, and I'm going to heat that to 170 degrees. And then I'll show you guys what we do after that. Alright, this is the curds once they're out of the butter muslin. I've been squeezing them and straining them. It does have a weird shape to it because of that. And then here we have our heated whey. This is heated to 170, and then I did add salt to this whey. And I'm just going to pour in enough to start heating that cheese. The pink stuff that you see is salt that didn't dissolve fully. And then this is where the stretching part of the cheese comes in. So I'm just going to let this heat here for a second, get nice and hot. And then what I should be able to do is actually stretch the cheese. Now, it may not stretch quite at first. I might need to do it a couple times to get it to really start stretching. Now, do be careful if you do this step, especially with your bare hands. It's quite hot. I'm a little concerned. It doesn't seem like it's very stretchy. Yeah, see, it just wants to break apart, which is not what we want. Maybe, we might. But as you can see, look, it just wants to pull apart, and it shouldn't do that. It should stretch. Because even when I'm like pushing on it, it wants to break. It doesn't want to stretch. Let's try heating it a little bit more. Honestly, this doesn't seem to be working so far. Like, yes, it turned into cheese. That's great. But it's not turning into mozzarella. It's not stretching, and it's not... It's going to be like mozzarella. It's actually going to be worse than mozzarella made with vinegar, because mozzarella with vinegar will still somewhat stretch. This is not stretching at all. This is like totally just like falling apart. It doesn't melt, I think, is the problem. Maybe. Because I can't even get these pieces back together now. So yes, it turned into cheese, but it turned into more of like a cottage cheese ricotta style cheese, not, because like this stuff just falls apart, which would be great for cottage cheese. That's exactly what we want, because you're going to chop it up all into really small pieces, but this is not going to work for mozzarella. So I would have to say that this is definitely fail, not good mozzarella. So yes, the cheese curdled. I understand that. It turned into cheese. But it didn't turn into mozzarella cheese. This curds that I have here in this bag, butter muslin, is not mozzarella cheese. If you've ever seen or worked with mozzarella cheese, it's extremely stretchy. It's not extremely stretchy at first. You have to sort of stretch it to get to that point. But after 3 times of doing it, it should have been stretchy by that point. You can pull mozzarella cheese pretty far apart before it breaks. It didn't need to be as stretchy as the regular mozzarella cheese, but it wasn't stretchy at all. So I'm going to have to say that this did not work. It turned into more of like a cottage cheese, which it just isn't mozzarella. I would have gotten a stretchier cheese, honestly, using vinegar than just going with rennet. So we'll see. Maybe there was something that I did that I could have done differently, like maybe it needed more rennet, maybe it needed it done a different way. So I'll do more research and see if I can come up with a solution for this. Maybe there's a way to do it without citric acid. But this recipe specifically is not for mozzarella cheese at all. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm curious to hear what everyone thought of this. Would you be satisfied with a cheese like this for mozzarella? Let me know.